Hello and welcome to Dev TV. At Dev TV, we profile ideas, innovation, individuals in economic development. We, in addition to that, we like to bring ideas that may have worked in other sectors or that's worked in other sectors to see how we can integrate it into what we do in economic development. Our primary purpose at Dev TV really is to bring the successes, the accomplishment, and all of the things that we do in economic development to bring it to a wider audience. First of all, to inform so people know exactly what it is that we do and how we do them, and essentially to get them involved in participating in economic development because all of that helps all of us. On this episode, or in this episode, what I really want to talk about is part of the approaches that we take in economic development, what we do when we design interventions. And I want to really talk about biases, right? How the biases that we have impacts on the intervention we design, the effectiveness of the interventions that we design, and what the impact of those biases are, and potentially some of the things that we can do really to reduce the biases. I'm not convinced that we can eliminate the biases, but at least we can reduce it. So at the end of this broadcast, what I hope you would have gotten is my own perception bias on how I think we can really do proper intervention or perhaps better intervention designs. So the first point of departure then is, what are the sources of biases? Now, every one of us have them. We all have the biases. We've been brought up in a certain location with a certain perspective in terms of socioeconomic ideas. We have a political leaning. Some of us have some religious leaning. And all of this really shape the way we perceive things. And in intervention design, if you have to define what the constraints are and define or identify the root causes, and then begin to really develop solutions on how to resolve those root causes, it is inevitable that our knowledge, things that we've learned through university, through any other means, some of the experiences that we've had, our own personal beliefs in terms of how economic empowerment happens, the way it ought to happen, all of that are biases. And if you really think about it, if you're a conservative, your approach to how the society should be designed is entirely different from if you're a liberal. But both of us, or both sides of the argument, really want to move the society forward or to design an intervention that helps resolve a particular problem. So it is therefore important for us to really understand the real root causes and try as hard as possible to reduce some of the biases that we have, so we can really understand the true nature of the problem we're trying to resolve. So what then are the impact of these biases? Now, if you think about it in economic development, some of the things that we do, some of the solutions that we have are solutions that we've done in so very many places, and they're almost repetitive. But thankfully, there are really a lot of good innovation that's coming through in economic development, borrowed from other sectors like the tech sectors, for instance. A lot of the solutions we have now are tech-driven, are data-driven. All of this are beginning to really help in the way we design intervention and how effective our intervention has become. But really, the impact of biases is narrow-mindedness in the way we define, in the way we identify, and in the way we design solutions for the things that we have identified. And that really makes it ineffective, because really, unless you come from the context in which you're trying to design the intervention, unless you really are extraordinary, that you can look at all perspectives and bring it to bear, you would design a skewed intervention, skewed away from the context of the intervention, the constraints that you're trying to resolve. So, and what that does is that we waste a lot of time, a lot of money, particularly more importantly, we begin to push the fatigue that beneficiaries generally have when they see us come back again and again, talk about the same thing, ask the same questions, and begin to really talk, and they get tired of those things. So the effectiveness of our intervention is reduced. The design of intervention is slightly skewed away from the context in which we're trying to design an intervention. And generally, we don't get the result we ought to get. And those are the sort of impact of these biases. How then do we reduce this? Now, this is my perspective, driven by my biases. My biases obviously come from my education, my background, my experiences, things I've done, things I've studied, people I've interacted with. All of those biases are the things that really has led to, first of all, my perspective on biases. Secondly, some of the things that I think we can do to reduce biases. So my number one idea really is, first of all, we must approach all of this with a learning mentality. We claim that we do, but really all we're doing when we go out scoping, when we go out really trying to understand the problem, is that we try as hard as possible to confirm some of the things that we have done on the whiteboard in our offices. That's what we do. But really, if we approach this in two stages, that yes, we do some brainstorming in our office, but we have to understand that all of those brainstorming are essentially assumptions that we need to go out in the field to validate. And the validation without the confirmation bias, that's a tricky thing. We really, really have to find a way to understand, or at least to identify the variables that we collect data on, not only confirm our biases, but really represent the true nature of the root cause or the constraints we're really trying to resolve. So now some of the things that we can really do to reduce the impact of our biases. I'm not sure we can totally eliminate it, but it's some of the things that we can do. On top of that, we really have to bring as many people into our intervention design as possible. I'm talking in terms of the beneficiaries. I'm talking in terms of the partners. I'm talking in terms of other stakeholders. But beyond that, even people within the office and people that we may think do not have very much to contribute in intervention design, very often those are the people that really can give you the key to unlock interventions or to unlock a particular problem. So these are my and then there's data validation. So there's two types of data validation from my own bias point of view. It's first of all, you do the general data validation or validated data gathering that we do. But then there's the active validation that I think we ought to engage in. It's a bit more protracted. It costs a bit more time and obviously money. But I think if you get involved and really step through the intervention design, walk through the intervention design in itself, and see how effective it is, learn from all of the things that's happening around, those active validation really, really helps and really narrows down the issues that you may have in terms of the key component of your intervention design. So anyway, these are my ideas in ways that I think we can reduce biases and try as hard as possible to make sure that we design intervention to suit the context in which we're working, because that's what we're trying to do. That's what all of us work hard to try and achieve, to try and elevate people out of poverty. So my name is Al Habib. This is Dev TV. Any ideas, comment, and suggestions on these issues, please put them in the comment below, and it is important for us to engage and begin to discuss so we can have the right perspective of the issues that we have. Thank you very much.